Morning, everybody. Oh, this morning, got to be honest, I was a bit vexed on my way to church. So I left our house about 9:30, something like that, and we live at Southampton, so a little bit away. So on the way here, you come to a roundabout called the Red. Well, there's a pub on the left-hand side called the Red Line. So those who know it, know it. And so you approach it. These 3 lanes up to the Red Line, up to the roundabout, and it's a terribly designed roundabout. It used to be okay, but then they've mucked it up. The road gods have mucked it all up. And so you approach this in these 3 lanes. So the inside lane is supposed to go around the outside, and then along. So you go right the way around. The middle lane is you go through the middle lane and then along. And the right-hand lane is turning right. Now, since this roundabout has been redone, improved, people approach it in the left-hand lane and feel that they are going, and actually it does sort of feel like you should go straight across. But that is not the way the traffic is designed to go. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been on a one-man mission to instruct everybody that on this roundabout, and I always approach it in the middle lane and I wait for them to pull across. And I do, but it's getting better. You know, we're about 4 years in, and I'm maybe 1 in 10 people now pull across, 1 in 10. Well, it used to be like 1 in 2. You know, so I'm making a difference. I'm incrementally making. I'm a part of the jigsaw for that roundabout. And but this morning, it's worse if you're on a motorbike. That actually can be quite scary, let me tell you. But this morning, I approach it, and there's a Range Rover there, and I'm looking at his position, and I'm thinking, this guy ain't got a clue. This guy does not know that this roundabout, if you're in that lane, you go like that. So I waited. Just dropped back a little bit, and he pulled straight across me. And this is where I got vexed, because I'd been praying, and up till this point, I was like praying about my words. I was getting into the spirit of it. And it sort of went at that moment in time as I peeped my horn and encouraged him back into the inside lane. The reason I tell you all that is if I'm not very good this morning, blame that bloke in that silver Range Rover. It's nothing to do with me. Who's got the Christmas decorations up? I agree with you, Janine. I agree with you. But, well, no, I agree with you, Andy. But unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to admit it. We've got ours up. But there is a reason for it. There is a reason. It's not just because I'm a celebrity. There is a reason. So it's book club, right? We have book club once a month, and it's our Christmas bash tonight. And you can't have a Christmas bash without a Christmas tree. So I'm embarrassed about it, but I've not put the outside lights up yet. I mean, I don't want the neighbours to think I'm crazy. So it's just the Christmas, just the indoor ones. Today, I'm carrying on the season that Luke started last week on gratitude. Last week, Luke spoke about our own feelings of gratitude that we should have. I'm getting this, is this right-ish, Luke? Back a bit. See, I always have a bit of a problem with this, and Luke, so they don't chastise me, but I can tell that he sits there and he really wants to get up here and move it. It's your roundabout, yeah. He started our season on gratitude, and it's a sort of topic, this. So sometimes we teach topics that are taking the Bible and like expanding it, you know, helping people to understand what happened and the impact that might have on our lives today. And every now and again we do a topic that's instructional. This is how you should live. These are the ways the Bible tells us to do stuff. And it's really important that we go to the right instruction manual sometimes as to learn how to do the right thing. This morning we had a very minor joinery emergency in the kitchen. And so the hatch thing, one of the hinges came off. So Mark leapt into action like an angel. Like an angel, leapt into action, went outside to his car, got some tools, and he's effected a repair. Now, if Mark had walked in with, I don't know, a spanner and a hammer, useful though those tools are, they're not what we need. What we needed was a Phillips screwdriver. And sometimes we're looking in the wrong place for the answers. And we need to go back to the right place for the answers, which is the Bible. And because we're bombarded with social media, we're bombarded with information all the time, we're consistently looking in slightly the wrong place. But sometimes it feels like it's the right place, like that roundabout. See the link there? It's pretty good, that. I just thought of that. But it's still the wrong place. The datum is still the Bible. We are very fortunate. It's all right for Luke to speak about gratitude and having. I know that everyone has different experiences in their life. But if you are in this room today, you are among one of the most fortunate people in the world. And that is simply because you live in the UK. Right? This is not and any other comment, it's not a political statement, it's just a fact. The UK is number 6 in the wealth of the world. Now we're a small country, but that is us, number 6. Our mortality rate is 81.5 years old, 81.6 years old. Which is getting nearer to me, but nevertheless, still a bit away. But the best in the world is Hong Kong, which is 85 years. So it's quite close. And in actual fact, between us and Hong Kong, there's quite a few other countries that are like incrementally like 2 months and stuff like this. The lowest out of the 201 countries that have been, whatever, I don't know where they get these figures from, is Nigeria, where it's 54 years old, the average mortality rate. And Nigeria is going through all sorts of problems at the moment, isn't it? I've seen it on the news. You know, there's all sorts of issues there culturally with Christians and other people. We are fortunate because we live in a country that is basically decent, that is basically okay, that is basically safe. And we should appreciate that. If nothing else, have gratitude for that. But sometimes it's easy to forget. It's easy to go through life and not actually feeling all that grateful. I think most of us would say, if we were being honest though, generally speaking, it's a good thing to be grateful. It's just that I sometimes forget to do it. I mean, back in the 80s, U2 sung a song called I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. And that's the sort of dissatisfaction that a lot of people sometimes feel. That there's a thing, and they feel dissatisfied with their lot, even though their lot is actually quite good. Look around you. There's nobody here with no clothes on. You know what I mean? Thank God. There's nobody here in those sort of situations. Because we live in England. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. But there are worse places. I think these levels of dissatisfaction that have gradually infiltrated society over these last 30 or 40 years, where society has got wealthier, but people feel poorer, point towards all sorts of reasons for that, you know? And again, not a political statement, this is just my opinion. But part of what makes this difficult is the speed of information, and in particular things like social media, which we're all a bit wrapped up in, really, unless you're completely off the grid. To me, social media seems to, one of the primary aims is to sort of make people realize how great your car is, or how fantastic your holiday's been, or what a brilliant figure you've got, or how fantastic your family is. Whatever it is what gets increasingly put out there by individuals, but also by people that might call themselves influencers. That's another one of my pet peeves. They're not influencing me. Anyway, maybe we're all been influenced. Even things like LinkedIn, which is sort of like Facebook for business people, has that thread running through it. Look at my great job, and your job's are rubbish. And this is where gratitude becomes so important, because it is being eroded from us without us even realizing. Without us knowing, it is being drawn out of us. And that's about ourselves. But what about for other people? You know, when we say to somebody, well, I'm happy for you, you can say that in a lot of ways, can't you? You can say, oh, I'm really happy for you. Or you can say, yeah, I'm happy for you. It depends, doesn't it? And this is the title I'm going to go with here. I'm happy for you. Let's use the correct context of that word. And let's work on using the correct context. Let's be happy for others. Let's be the person that's prepared to be happy for the person who's been healed even when we've not been healed. Let's be the person that can be happy for someone who's got that job even when we didn't get that job. Or whatever it might be that's got a happy family life, even when ours maybe isn't. Whatever it is, somehow we need to take the sort of mindset that we have about some of these things and turn it upside down. Now, this happens a lot in biblical things because the Bible often takes the world we live in and it's sort of counterintuitive. So we'll think this in the world, but the Bible tells us something else. You know, the last shall be first and the first shall be last, which is completely different to what the world would say. Get in there and get what you're owed. And this is another one of those situations where what we might get encouraged, how we might encouraged to be by the world around us. And he said, no, that is not the best way. What does the Bible say about it? But it is tricky because you can have a lot and still feel that way. You can be a guy or a girl with a £20 million yacht, right? I've not got one. But you could be a guy or a girl with a £20 million yacht and you're perfectly happy until you see your friend who's got a £25 million yacht and he's got a helicopter pad. That is how ridiculous it can be. Where we look at our own lives and we are blessed and then we feel somehow discontented. We somehow feel a lack of gratefulness because we've not got a helicopter pad. Anybody here got a helicopter pad? I thought not. I was on safe ground with that one. Luke, last week, he said a line that was it was a fantastic message, but there was a line that was particularly good. And he said this: gratitude is the key to contentment. Now, contentment's a funny word because I don't, in one sense, in my weird head, if I say, oh, I am content, it makes me feel like I'm saying, I have no ambition. I don't care what happens to me, you know, and that's not the context that he was meaning. Contentment is like an inner peace. We're not talking about not wanting to work hard or not wanting to be ambitious. We're talking here about an inner peace that means that we can get through life content. If nothing else, we can be content. And gratitude is the key to that. Let's see what else the Bible says about this particular topic. So, Romans 12:15 is well known for this. It says, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Now, this is part of a much bigger chapter, which I'm going to come to in a minute. But I want to start by saying gratitude is not limited to our own personal circumstances. We've got to turn that around. We don't have to be happy only if we're happy. We're going to be happy if somebody else is. And when we rejoice with others, we participate in their happiness. And overall, that creates a community, a better world for all of us. Now we're talking here on a global scale, but look at it even in your house scale, in your road, in your street, in this church. Philippians 2, verse 2 and 4, Paul says this: do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Gratitude for others is the practical way we can apply this. When and if we value others, if we start to live in that way, how the Bible teaches us to live, like an instruction manual, when we consider their joy as meaningful as my joy, then our hearts will change. And it starts with an act of the will. And then gradually that impacts in our heart. Sometimes we need to start by saying it, even if we don't mean it. But again, it's counterintuitive. Now, Jesus taught a lot in what we call parables. Now, the parable is just a story with a moral meaning. All right? But we will sometimes, you'll hear Christians say, oh, Jesus' parable of such and such. And then you might get locked in the word parable. It just means it's a story that Jesus told that had a moral meaning. Now, there's loads of parables in the New Testament. There's a couple that I'm going to mention where Jesus himself spoke about this type of gratitude. So Luke chapter 15 is the parable of the prodigal son. So this is a chap, a young lad, wants his inheritance right now because he wants to go and fly the nest, sow his wild oats, spend some money, do all sorts of stuff, and he thinks he knows better. So he goes away and does that, and then the older brother stays at home, keeps working. Years go by, and this young chap comes back, and because he's run out of money and he's destitute, he's homeless, he's done it. And he comes back, and his dad runs to him, and his dad brings him back into the fold, and he starts a party. But the older brother's irritated. The older brother, who's kept grafting all the time, the younger brother's been away doing his thing, is really irritated. More than likely, he felt justifiable in feeling anger, resentment, and shame towards the younger brother. In fact, it probably was. He was justified. He was justified. But this is why Jesus told this story, because he told it to make us realize, well, of course he was justified. But the fact of the matter is, the father says, well, listen, everything I have was always yours and still always yours. But your brother, my other son, was lost. Now he's found again. And one of the messages from that parable, of which there are many, is if God can be generous of heart to people that have damaged him in the way that younger son did, then so can we. If God can forgive, then so can we. There's another parable in Matthew 20, story of the vineyard. It's another good one. So there's a guy who owns a vineyard, and he goes out into the fields. He needs some workers. So he goes to the market, he employs some people. He goes back to the market several times to employ fellas or ladies, I don't know, to work in his vineyard. And he does this several times during the day until the last lot get working at something like 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. So these guys and girls have been working there since like 6 in the morning, and there's some that started late in the afternoon. So when the time comes to pay the money, then they sort of think there's going to be a difference here. In actual fact, they all get paid the same. They all get paid the day rate. And the people that worked all day, justifiably, are pretty annoyed by this. Understandably so. And it's the same story, the same message that Jesus is saying. Are you envious because I am generous? In other words, do you resent the blessing that somebody else has received? No, we shouldn't. It's hard. Trust me, I know. It's hard. When you're praying for someone and somebody else gets it and you're like, I'm definitely more deserving than them. Maybe that's just me. This parable teaches that the generosity of God towards others is not something to resent, but something to celebrate. If God chooses to pour out his goodness on somebody else, we need to learn to be grateful, not bitter about it, whoever it is. Funny thing about envy, it's not that funny really. Have you ever heard that phrase, green with envy? Have you heard that phrase, haven't you? Mom? Yeah, absolutely. You're not brought up under a rock, as my grandma would have said. Green with envy. Who here, this is a rhetorical question, don't shout out, but think about it in your head. Who here wants to be seen as envious, jealous, resentful, greedy, or malicious? Is that really what you want to be seen as? Of course you don't. They are among the most unpleasant of characteristics we would want to be associated with. But they're all inside. There's no evidence of those things outside. Until you speak sometimes. Proverbs 14:30 says, a heart at peace gives life to the body. But listen to this. Envy rots the bones. Envy and jealousy drain us. They damage us. They make us mean little versions of ourselves. And I mean this, talking to myself much as anybody else. This is not a sort of, I'm not intending this to be sort of having a go at anybody here. This is what envy does. It makes us mean versions of ourselves. It isolates us from others and blinds us to the goodness of God. Gratitude can restore that. Gratitude becomes an antidote for that illness. Envy is called things like the green-eyed monster, the green-eyed envy, green with envy. Shakespeare used these descriptions in his books centuries and centuries ago. Now it's called this because green is often linked with being ill, with being sick, literally ill. One of those reasons apparently is because they can lead to an iron deficiency can lead to that. Now I'm no doctor, I'm no nurse, but I believe there's various reasons why that could be the case. But it's interesting then that centuries ago, being envious was linked to being ill. Somebody somewhere made that link. Being envious is linked to being an ill person. Being envious and jealous, I genuinely believe this, taken to its extreme, is literally bad for us. Now, okay, there's some people get wrapped up in that. It's like anything else. If you're smoking 40 cigarettes a day, that's really bad for you. But one ain't good for you either. So just because you're a little bit jealous, don't worry. It's still something that needs to be dealt with. Right. It's not the same, but you need to be dealing with that root. What's the way to overcome being envious or jealous? Well, it's having a heart that's grateful for the blessings others receive. It's training our hearts to be grateful for the blessings of other people. When we celebrate the blessings that others receive, we combat that feeling. And we become released from comparison, jealousy, and insecurity. Gratitude turns competition into compassion. And it turns rivalry into relationships. If our churches, our families, our worlds lived in this way and were filled with people that cheered each other on, it would be a better place. It really would. When we express thankfulness for the blessings felt by others, it's an antidote for the green illness of jealousy. And by doing that, we become then better and bigger versions of ourselves. We are growing ourselves. Let me ask you a question. Who do you want to be? Think of someone that you think puts other people first. Now, this is a question for you in your head. If you can think of an actual person and name, that's fine, but don't say it out loud. Think of someone that puts someone first. The person that would be grateful on behalf of others. Consider that person in your mind. What type of person are they? Do you like them? Are they nice people? Do they want the best for others? Would they help others and build them up? Do they appear content? And now think of somebody, a different person, probably, or almost certainly, that isn't like that. Definitely don't say this name out loud. That isn't like that. That's perhaps selfish, self-absorbed, difficult. Now, these are extremes, and it may well be you can't think of someone that exactly embodies all that. But that person who is like that, selfish and self-absorbed, what type of person are they? Do you want to be like that person? Do they want the best for others? Do they maybe even gloat a bit at other people's misfortune? Which one of those people do you want to be? How do you want to be remembered by? If somebody else was thinking about that and they thought of you, which one would you want them to think? Oh yeah, they're the person that is selfless. Of course you'd want that person to feel that way. So all of us, if that's what we're wanting, we need to make these baby steps to deal with this all the time, because the world is pushing us in a different direction. We need to recognize that. It is dangerous. The dissatisfaction that is in the world today pushes us in a negative direction. Love in action. When I started at the beginning, I read from a piece in Romans. And it's a part of a wider chapter, which I'm going to read quite a lot of it out. But it starts by Paul saying, don't conform to the rest of this world. And Paul's laying it out there. He's saying, look, don't be like everybody else. It's just not the right way. He's putting it out there. He then goes on to say, be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Well, there's a complete study in that for itself, but this is part of that. This is part of God saying, well, this is how you renew your minds. Listen to this, verse 9 onwards. Now, I'm going to read this because, surprisingly, I can't say it as well as St. Paul did. So I'm just going to read what Paul wrote because it's better than I can do. There we go. There's humility in action. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Cling to it. Hold on to it. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, your spiritual excitement, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Be generous. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. That's hard, isn't it? Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. That's what I read at the beginning. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, which is another tough one. It's counterintuitive to what we taught. It's not about revenge. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, He is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Listen to this, on the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. You do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So that is a bit odd, isn't it, with how we talk, with what's out there, the subliminal message that we're being fed. So it's an odd thing to hear, but this is what the Bible says, and this is a better way to live. This is how God tells us how to live. And these are the ways that we avoid the greenness of envy. This is how we avoid the horribleness of greed. This is how we avoid the emptiness of resentment and the disease of discontent. This is how we become instead content, by living like this. That's how I become the person I want to be, not the person I am. That's how I can look at myself. If I can live like that, it's a high standard. But the more I can live like that, the more I'll be proud of who I am, in the right context, obviously. So, what can we do about that? Should we have the band up, please? Like I said, this is a practical word. So I want to give some practical pointers, some ideas as to what we should be doing right now. Next steps. What do we do today about this? What do we do this week about this month, this year? Actions take quite a while sometimes to become habits. It's not like, well, I do this today and then all of a sudden I'll do it every day. It doesn't work like that. It takes a while. Now, apparently it takes about 66 days. Well, I don't know where they've got that from. That's an average. That's like having your head in the oven and your feet in the fridge and your stomach's an average. So averages are nonsense. Averages are nonsense. It's damn lies and statistics. But it's a guide, all right? 66 days, broadly speaking, and it's a habit. If you start tomorrow, guess what? It's 67 days. Start today. Start today to make little steps, baby steps if need be. So even no matter how good you are, and there's some great people in there, I know there are, but no matter how good we are, let's be better. First of all, let's be deliberate. Terence, be deliberate. Work on yourself. I drift through life sometimes, and I'm not really focused on my own development. I just all of a sudden realize, oh, years gone by. Maybe I'm not that alone in being like that. Be deliberate in working on me. Be deliberate in being brave enough to say to me, I do not want to be that type of Terence Clark. Don't drift, Terence. Don't drift. Be focused. Speak words of encouragement. In a real way, now I'm not a crazy thing about, about positive speaking, but I generally do believe that we are what we say, in the main. If we speak negatively, we will be negative. And if we speak positively, we will be positive, broadly speaking. Be active in congratulating other people. No matter how you feel, and obviously I am genuinely not saying to someone, I'm really happy for you. Be as genuine as you can be. Fake it till you make it if need be, but go and congratulate somebody as sincerely as you can. Do it as a deliberate act. Do it today. Do it after this meeting. Why not? Today in this meeting, there's no reason why all of us can't go up to somebody and say, well done, or congratulations, or you look good, or whatever it is. Find something to be positive about somebody else but you. Do it today. Start today, not tomorrow. Number 3, say thank you to God for the blessings of others. In our prayers, it can sometimes be difficult to do that, can't it? It can be difficult to pray for people we don't like, and it can be difficult to say thank you, Lord, for things that have happened to them that are positive. Work on that. I'm going to need to work on that. In our praise, thank God for things that have happened to other people. For their promotion, their happiness, their marriage proposal, whatever it is. Be positive. 4, celebrate easily and regularly with others. Make it easy to be celebratory. I had a boss once, the worst boss I've ever had. And he could suck the energy out of any room, honestly. He could take the happiness out of any situation. It was a joy. It was a unique gift he had. Now, and so most of my life I've been in some type of sales, and if the team had done target, normally speaking, it's a big push at the end of the month, and I'd come and see him, and I'd be like, we've done target, it's great, it's been a right effort and all this. And he would take that little bundle of joy that I had, like a balloon, and stick a knife in it. Well, it starts again tomorrow, don't you? Thank you very much. I'll get on my way. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Share celebrations. Make the most of them. What I should have said is, that's brilliant. Tell your team, well done. Proud of you. Well done. Be like that. Be that person. Be deliberate in your celebration of other people's successes. And lastly, let's all of us cultivate a generous heart. Be deliberate in our generosity. If somebody, it may not be something that's like finances or physical, it could be in a lot of ways. Even being celebrated about somebody else's good fortune is being generous of heart sometimes. But be generous. If you can drop somebody off on your way home, like halfway to their house, and then you go in a different direction, take them home. When we're asking for people to help at church, put your hand up and help. If somebody next to you is moving out and they want a hand, give them a hand. Whether they're Christian, non-Christian, whatever. Let's be generous people. We don't need to be generous by giving loads of cash away. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a spirit of generosity that starts here and it comes out in all sorts of different ways. It came out this morning when I didn't ask Mark to come and help me. He sussed we had a problem, and I just generosity thought, you know what? I'll solve that problem. That's a generous heart. It could be little things like that, but it matters. Be generous of heart. Lastly, let's be proactive. Let's be deliberate. Let's look for ways to help and be grateful for other people, because it develops us as much as it develops them, and it makes us bigger and better people.